Well, welcome back. This is From Battle to Business with your host, Dean Van Dyke. And today I'm fortunate to have Tim Cruickshank, former Lieutenant Commander, United States Navy, former Navy SEAL, retired, Bone Frog Coffee Company CEO and founder. He understands and has seen the sacrifice required by both the service member and their families to keep the American dream a reality. He served 25 years in the Navy and felt compelled when he retired to honor his teammates and give back to his community that gave so much to him. This is Tim's way to continue to serve. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks for having me, Dean.
Absolutely. Well, I greatly appreciate you joining us today. So in 60 seconds or less, tell us who Tim is.
I am a regular American that served my country, and I'm grateful not only for the freedom that we have, but those that sacrificed everything for that freedom. And the business that we're going to talk about is kind of a reflection of that. And, grateful for those guys that gave everything, my teammates.
Yeah, that's the ultimate sacrifice, right? And those are the ones we honor on Memorial Day.
Yep.
Awesome. So over that 25-year career, what do you think was the most important thing you've learned?
Oh man, these are good questions. I would think the camaraderie and loyalty that we had in the SEAL teams, the most important thing that I was taught was putting your guys first. As I worked my way up the ranks, and even when we went through training, they taught us to stop being self-centered, I guess is the best word I can put it. Think of others first. Make sure that when you get up from the table, you're asking everybody at the table if you can get them something. When you come back off a mission, make sure that you're looking out for them, looking out for your gear. There's a lot of other things that you need to take care of before yourself. And so of all the things that I learned, I think that, thinking of others first is probably the most important. And it really kind of reflects on everything that we're doing today with our business.
Awesome. So I watched the video on your website, and the symbol you have behind you is the bone frog.
Yep, I have it right here in my office.
Tell us why that's such a sacred symbol. And I know it's especially poignant for you after watching the video, but tell us why that's such a sacred symbol to the teams.
Yeah, so the original symbol in the SEAL teams was Freddy the Frog, and that took its genesis from all the way back in 1942 with the underwater demolition teams, Scouts and Raiders, and CDUs. And the bone frog was originally drawn by Keith Kimura, who's a friend of mine that was also an 18 Delta medic. When he drew that, and then when he passed away, it really became a symbol of sacrifice. And guys just kind of gravitated towards that. And you'll see that symbol tattooed on people for lost teammates. You'll see it as stickers or hats or t-shirts or whatever, but really it became a sacred symbol in the SEAL teams that represents those that sacrificed everything for our country.
And that's the name of the business, Bone Frog Coffee.
That's the name of the business. So we have the coffee company and the winery, Bone Frog Cellars. And I named it that because I wanted all Americans to recognize the bone frog for what it is, and get it out there to the general public. But it also is a big part of what we stand for as a company. Not only do we honor those that gave everything, but we also give back part of our proceeds to a number of different foundations within the Naval Special Warfare community to be able to give back to the families that are still sacrificing to this day.
Yeah, I mean, the families obviously didn't sign the bottom line or raise their right hand, and so they have to bear the brunt of when we're gone and not knowing what's going on, which not knowing what's going on is a good thing. So circling back to the teams, what's a common myth that most people may think they believe, but is not true?
I don't know. Give me an example of something. Like, what do you mean by that?
Unfortunately, I have no idea, because I So I was actually stationed in Dam Neck in Virginia Beach.
Okay.
And so I saw the SEAL teams on the beach, out in the ocean, doing their boats, having fun the way it looked. I know it was serious business, but it looked like it was fun to me. It's just the mystique, I think, about the teams. And, most don't know that they did come from the UDTs back in the World War II.
Yeah.
And, I think the earliest, probably, the earliest time that they were referenced was Vietnam. And I think you referenced it in your video, the green faces.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think there's a certain mystique, but then also what I've noticed is most of the SEALs coming out of GWAT are more open about it. So when I was in, you didn't hear anything, and I was in from 89 to 95.
Yeah.
Um, my neighbor was a SEAL in Virginia Beach. Didn't know that until we were leaving. So why are folks more open about it now that have served?
I don't know. I am kind of the old school where we didn't talk about things. We didn't take pictures. We didn't talk about what we did. I have a t-shirt that I've made for people. I think we're starting to get back to the old ways, and it's called The
Mhm.
Deed Is All. And really what it means is go do your job. You don't need to brag about it. You don't need to talk about it or any of that stuff. It's the way it used to be. And
Mhm.
for my mentors that were coming out of Vietnam, the people that were training us when we were new guys, they said you have two ears and one mouth for a reason. Listen, learn, and do less talking. And that's what we learned back then. I don't know what changed or why it changed or any of that. But I think that the guys are starting to get back to the old ways now.
Okay. That's good. I think one of the things that I've struggled with is uh, folks on LinkedIn that convey what type of clearance they have.
Yeah.
Uh, because when I was in, that was, you don't talk about it.
No, you don't
And,
talk about that. You can lose your
but,
clearance for stuff like that.
well, that's what again, I was in 14 years with the reserves and active duty, but it was just something you never talked about.
Right.
And I don't understand the why behind I would make that known, I guess, because yeah. So anyway, um, so on the website you have God, country, and teams, which I
Yeah.
love, by the way.
Yeah.
So tell us about that and why is that so important, not only to you but to the teams as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So when I started this company, I think nowadays, people get really um, sensitive about certain topics. And I
Mhm.
said, I am going to put God first in everything that we do, everything. And if it upsets people, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And I think that, whether you're running a company, leading your family, your community, that kind of stuff, putting God first in everything that you do, you can't go wrong. A country second, because I was willing to sacrifice my life for this country and our freedom. It's that important to me. And I put team because I truly believe that it's not only just your family, it's your neighbors, it's your community, it's your
Mhm.
church, it's all that makes up the team. And you'll see that um, when a order goes out for the first time, I send a card and it has God Country Team on it. And I welcome every single person to the Bone Frog team because now they're part of something bigger. And I am greatly appreciative of everybody that buys from us and supports us. And I welcome to the team because now their purchase, part of that purchase goes to help and gets donated to those foundations that I talk about.
Mhm.
When we go out into combat, we have a promise that we make to each other that if something happens to you, Dean, we're going to take care of your wife and kids for the rest of their lives. And you'll see a lot of SEAL companies that give back like that in a
Mhm.
meaningful way to make sure that those wives and kids and people that were injured are taken care of. I think that's a very important thing, and it goes right into what team really means and
Mhm.
looking out for others.
Well, I think that's I mean that obviously you maintain that sense of community once you leave the military by doing that, and I think it's great that that you're doing that. One of the things that I do as a business owner is combat the suicide, the 22 a day.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that, having had losing a good friend to that, was very impactful, and so I love the God Country team. I think that, and then you take team not only from your military experience but into your community as well, which I think is phenomenal. And and I have to say, your coffee is amazing. I won't go into the other brands. I think we talked about it on the phone, which I'm going to get into in a minute. But
Yeah.
when I tasted your coffee for the first time, I'm like, wow, that has amazing flavor. And I want to touch on a little bit about not only the cart, but a few weeks ago, I placed an order. And the next thing I know, it was maybe an hour or two later, but my phone is ringing, and here's Tim calling me, the owner of Bone Frog, asking me about, did you mean to make a double shipment or would you like it combined? And that, Tim, that level of customer service absolutely blew me away.
I
I
appreciate that. I want our customers to know how much you guys mean to us. I want every single one of you to feel important and know that I look at those things and I care about you guys. And I will call customers out of the blue just to thank them. And I think it shocks a lot of people. It's kind of funny. Because they'll yell on the phone, honey, it's the owner boat. I go, look, I'm just a guy. I'm just like you. I'm just another guy. But I think that's important to call people and thank them. I write them
Mhm.
personal notes. And the part that I really like is getting to know my customers, right? So when we talk on the phone, I get to know you, and I get to know all these people from all over the United States, and I hear about their pets and their kids and
Nice.
what they're doing, and then I write them notes about that. I love that part of it, because I'm connecting with my fellow Americans, and we talk about
Mhm.
how much we enjoy our freedom and those that sacrifice for it. I love that. Love it.
And then you refunded that shipping. I was like, it speaks volumes about you and your company. And you've got a new coffee blend coming out. I'll let you introduce it. It sounds like it's another one that I'm going to need to purchase.
Yeah.
And so tell us about that new blend.
So I'm really excited about it. It's called the Goat Locker. And for those listeners out there that are former Navy, you know exactly what the Goat
Mhm.
Locker is. But for those that don't, the Goat Locker is well, first, it's been around since the late 1800s, since the beginning
Mhm.
of the Navy and wooden ships. And the Goat Locker is a very significant private place for our senior enlisted. So E7, E8, and E9. It's a place that they go and they can talk about leadership things and strategies and issues they're having at the command. Every command in the Navy has a Goat Locker for the
Mhm.
senior enlisted. I made this Goat Locker blend to honor them and the significant leadership that they've provided, not only for the enlisted, but for the junior officers. And so
Mhm.
this is something that the junior enlisted are almost afraid to go knock on the Goat Locker door. Junior officers just plain stay away from it. And the commanding officer has to ask permission to come in. It's a very private, honored place. And so we created this Goat Locker, and it tells the history on the back of the bag. The front of the bag, I spent over 8 months working on this new design for the goat, and it had to represent the senior enlisted perfectly. And I think it does. It's a very menacing looking picture, has a bit of a scowl on its face, a scar down the right side. You know, when I got out of the Navy, we'd been at war for 16 years. These guys
Mhm.
now, the senior enlisted, these are combat veterans, and they're tasked with a very serious and significant job of keeping those underneath them alive.
Mhm.
And that's what the goat locker stands for. And the other thing is, people wanted a darker roast, darker than our frogman, and we provided that. This is 100% Costa Rican, and this type of bean can withstand the heat of a dark roast. And this is a very dark French roast.
Oh,
People are buying it up like crazy. It's flying off the shelves. It's delicious. I love it. And I'm glad I have the opportunity to talk about it because we're super excited about this launch.
sounds like I need to hurry up and get some ordered. Um, so tell us
It's
about
really good.
your sourcing of your beans. I thought that was really interesting. And what, and I know you partnered with the famous roaster here in Seattle as well.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that story.
So it's not enough to have a good story or great looking bags or all that kind of stuff, because that only lasts so long. You have to have good coffee.
Mhm.
And it was by the grace of God that I was introduced to and met Dave Stewart, who is the original founder of Seattle's Best Coffee. And anybody who's a coffee aficionado knows that, really the whole world's coffee craze started with two people, Dave Stewart and Howard Schultz here in
Mm.
Seattle way back in the 70s. And they battled it out for coffee supremacy. And Dave Stewart really, his roasting style is a little different. He does it more of a Northern European roast, which really brings out the flavor profile of the beans,
Mhm.
but it has a smooth, non-acidic finish. That's what makes it different. And when people try it, they love it, because here in the local area, they've gotten used to that other
That
type of
other stuff.
coffee that is, described as having a burnt taste, and it gives you indigestion and upsets your stomach. And our coffee does not do that. And I think people go nuts because they get full bold flavor with a smooth finish, and that's really what separates us and distinguishes our coffee.
It definitely is. I mean, it is so smooth, and I love the French press version, the grind with the French press. That's really good.
Yeah, it's really nice. And to have somebody who's, a world renowned iconic coffee roaster teaching and mentoring me is it's unbelievable. And I'm really grateful to have Dave teaching me.
And that sounds like it's probably a good piece of advice for anyone that is starting a potential coffee company is having somebody in your court such as Dave.
Well, it's amazing because when I got out, I didn't know anything about coffee. I was a SEAL and a medic, and I didn't know anything about coffee
Hmm.
roasting. And so the learning curve was high, but in special operations, we learn to find subject matter experts that can get us smarter so we can
Hmm.
become better at what we do. And I found one of the world's best and was lucky to find him. So grateful for that.
I mean, that's great. So as you've been, the CEO and founder of Bone Frog, what is one thing about your business that you didn't expect? And I know you're a former SEAL, so you guys, you work in the unexpected, but what's one thing about the business you didn't expect?
All the ways that you can lose money.
That's very
So
true.
it's interesting when you start a small business, you have no idea all the little things that can ding you, right? So you have to learn very quickly and expeditiously so you don't lose too much money, but you're going to make mistakes. And when I do my public speaking stuff, I talk about this a little bit. We have an evolution in buds that's called log PT, where we get the big
Hmm.
telephone
I've seen
poles.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of them is where they line us up on the 20-foot berm at the bottom, and your boat crew has to push a log up the 20-foot berm with your feet. Now, inevitably, you're going to push, and one side's going to go up higher than the other, and you slide all the way to the bottom. Or one thing happens and you get all the way and then you slide back to the bottom. Running a small business is like that. And that taught me a lot because, the instructors stand there with their bullhorns and they yell at you. And inevitably, you're going to yell at each other and blame each other. And that's all part of the learning experience. And when you slide back to the bottom, they make you go get wet and sandy and start over again. So you're tired, you're wet, you're sandy, people are arguing. It's the same thing in life, and especially when you start a business, because you get the momentum going and something knocks you back down to the bottom, and you got to work off your experiences of things you've done in the past to continue on that made a mistake, and I'll keep going. So that's probably my biggest learning experience so far running a small business.
Yeah, I think I'll just keep running the small business and avoid the log work. That sounds like it sounds
That's
like
probably smart.
a lot of fun. But so if you could be remembered for one thing, what would Tim want to be remembered for?
That I cared for others and gave back.
Hmm.
I love my country. I love it so much that it gives me chills when I, hear the national anthem. I love the guys that I worked with, and I want to be able to give back in a meaningful way, not only to the foundations and the families, but to be remembered that I gave back because of them and because of our country and our freedom. And I just want to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's an amazing legacy. So there's a couple more hard questions I got for you as we
Okay.
get ready to land this thing on a flat top. Not a piece of concrete, but flat top. So what are the 3 books that you would recommend to my audience and why?
The first one I would recommend is called The Go Giver.
Hmm.
And for the life of me, I can't remember the author's name, but it's called The Go Giver. And really, I think that's changed my perspective on things quite a bit. So if you get a chance, go take a look at that. The other one is Andrews and Wilson's Sons of Valor, and it's based off of the books. We do book bundles. It's our Sons of Valor blend. Brian and Jeff are Navy veterans, and their books are phenomenal. So if you ever get a chance to buy their books, I highly recommend it. The first time I read them, they're so detailed, you feel like you're right there in part of the military and the operation and all that kind of stuff. So absolutely go buy their books. Third book, probably the Bible would be the one that everybody needs to read.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are great book recommendations. And I've read, I think it was The Sons of Valor after having I think Brian was on the pod. It was a podcast guest a few months ago. But yeah, those are I'll definitely check out The Go Giver. That sounds like a really good book and a way to live. So
It is. And it's another way of thinking of other people first. People, when you're running a company, they will come to you if they know you, like you, and trust you, right? And the only way to get there is to make sure that you're doing things for them, thinking of them.
Right.
Stop thinking of yourself and what's best for you and how you can make money and all. That's not the important part in life. The important part in life is taking care of other people, making sure that they're happy, making sure that they're taken care of. That's what's most important. And that's what that book talks about. And I think people would really like it.
Yeah, I think it's we need that book more than ever today.
Agreed. For a number of different reasons.
As well as the Bible, as well as
Yes.
that one.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Where can my audience go to learn more about the great work you're doing with Bone Frog and all your other in the winery?
So you can go to bonefrogcoffee.com and you can see on the website everything that we're doing there, and we have an about us page so you can learn a little bit more. Bonefrogsellers.com is where we sell our wine. The wine comes from the Columbia Valley AVA and is shipped directly out of Richland. That wine comes from some of the oldest vineyards in the state, and I partnered with a second generation winemaker down there that we make some phenomenal wine, and we ship all over the United States with that as well. So, really would love to have your listeners come and be a part of what we're doing and help us give back in a meaningful way to these foundations within the Naval Special Warfare community that we support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I love to give my guests the final word. So I will give you the final word and send us off on our next mission.
So, Dean, thank you not only for being a customer of ours and helping support what we do, but for having me on your podcast so I can tell the story to the listeners. And, really the biggest thing is getting out in front of as many people as we can.
Mhm.
And we have a rewards program. We have a refer a friend program. So when you go on there and you refer a friend, you not only get $10 off your order, but so does your friend. And the way that we're going to grow and be able to, give big, huge checks to people is by growing bigger. And I encourage all of the listeners to come and be part of the Bone Frog team so we can give back to more people. So thank you for this opportunity to talk about my company.
You bet. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean.